Welcome back, everyone present here and watching live. We are live from IBC 2024. If you can see this screen, it is the artist assets. Basically, you can scan them and download the artwork. And it's their work that you can play around with and learn from their videos and stuff like that. So please scan it if you want to. Next up is Bianca, also known as Animade. She is a freelance art director and 3D designer, and she will be talking about her personal journey in the 3D world and how she has conquered the world with her work and what she does. Bianca, it's all yours.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you. Yeah, hello. I'm Bianca, or Animate is my artist name. I'm a freelance art director and 3D designer based in Germany. I mainly work in the motion design industries, and I'm addicted to the 3D world for some 20 years now. So here's a short cut-down of several projects I had a chance to work on. That was that. Thank you. Yeah, until now I had the pleasure of holding 2 presentations for Maxon, so this is my 3rd one. And the topic this one is, as you can see, specialist or generalist, what's your role in the 3D world? And I chose the topic because I'm often asked why I don't focus on a specific task during my career. And yeah, I just can't answer. There are so many fascinating tasks and in the 3D and motion design fields, and yeah, I want to do them all from time to time. And as you could already see during my retrospect, I definitely like exploring several projects. Oh, sorry, too fast. Let's see, my mouse doesn't work. Okay, now we go. Yeah, as you could see in my reel, I definitely like the variety of projects, studios, teams, looks, tasks, and so on. So, yeah, finding your role in the 3D world. Yeah, the 3D world these days is so big, so huge, and there are so many interesting fields. And yeah, no worries, you'll find your time, what you like most, and in what you are best. So especially at the beginning of your career, or even earlier during your education, you should generally try things out for yourselves. That's a very essential process, because you will only know what you really like if you give it a try. So personally, I like the graphical, abstract, and more or less unrealistic stuff most. So for me, it's the 3D and motion design field. But even in this field, there are so many possibilities. Which 3D tool? Do you want to stay graphical or dive deep into, let's say, particle systems? Is it a pre-production? Is it a production? Is it look development, modeling, texturing, animating, simulating, rendering, and whatever, so on and so on. So, I decided to present 2 projects which I did during the last months, and they're very different. And my tasks during these projects were very different too. So this is the Cineversity tutorial series. I had the pleasure to do this tutorial series for Maxon, for their Cineversity platform. And yeah, it's not a huge learning process for you. It was a huge one for me too, because it was a real first. And it was an exciting journey for me. Yeah, by the way, thanks to Noseman. He was a great help. And yeah, regarding the series, the idea is to do a creative project for an imagined client. And the goal is to explore several modeling and animation techniques while learning to be able to react to the client's change requests. And the level is around intermediate. So, yeah, real life for artists is not just about being creative. You have to be able to work with clients and work with teams. And the essential key is to generate a good workflow. So mostly it's not like you do some nice designs and animations and your client says, oh, wow, thanks for this fantastic stuff, and that's it. No, reality is something different. Even if everybody else likes your stuff, you cannot expect your client to do the same. So mostly it's more like, oh, this is a really, really good proposal, and then comes the but. And that's exactly why I created this tutorial series. If you keep some important things in mind from the beginning on, your life will be much easier. So staying flexible, staying organized, and thinking things through will save you a lot of time during your projects. And yeah, especially in the real world where you want to earn real money. So let's have a look. The project is a purely fictional Instagram campaign. We start during the series very simple, and with every section we dive more deeply into Cinema 4D. So we have 6 cubes in total, 6 custom cubes, and mostly there are 2 parts for every cube. So creating the cube and then animating or simulating the cube. So this is a preview of the 6 animated cubes. This one is the hard surface cube. I gave them some names myself. This is the super beveled cube, the fractured cube, the extreme extruded cube, the ballooned cube, and last but not least, the cushioned cube. Yeah, let's start with creating the cubes, part 1. And yeah, surprise, surprise, we always start with a cube. So that one is the hard surface cube, and here during this tutorial we concentrate on creating the cube with the cloner in combination with volume modeling techniques. We adjust the settings, we find simple and easy ways to create this nice volume model. While the super beveled cube, here we compare some standard modeling techniques with the bevel deformer. The big plus of the bevel deformer is, in comparison with standard modeling techniques, it's very flexible, it stays editable, and it's animatable. So, and somehow I wouldn't know to model this stuff with standard modeling techniques. But it's very easy with the bevel deformer. So this one is the fractured cube, and as the name says, it's based on the Voronoi fracture object. So we explore the Voronoi fracture object and combine it with several matrix objects. So you can add a whole number of matrix objects to control the patterns inside of the Voronoi fracture object. And you combine the matrix objects even with some effectors and fields and whatever you like to do. So it's very easy. So this one is the extreme extruded cube. And here we work with the Mo Extrude, or the Motion Graphics Extrude Deformer. I combine it with the displacer, some noise maps inside, and we explore some cloners and fields, as effectors and fields. So the balloon cube, here we step a bit more into simulating, not just animating. We have a good look at standard modeling tools, like selection tools or cutting tools. Yeah, and as the name says of the cube, balloon cube, we work with the balloon tag in comparison with the rope tag and the connector tag. And in the end, you'll have this nice ballooned cube. And you can go over to the next step for animating this cube. So this one is the cushion cube. And here we dive even more into simulation. In this case, we use the soft body simulation in combination with a collider tag. We use cloners and effectors in combination with the simulation of the soft body. And we have a good look at the scene settings to avoid these errors in the simulation. Yeah. Then we can take the next step, so animating the cubes. So we created our 6 cube models, and now we can animate them. And what you learn is, while watching the tutorial for the hard surface cube, we work with hierarchies, we use the snapping tool, we work with the timeline, and with alembics. I really love the alembics. So, and here we go. For the super beveled cube, we concentrate on animating several slots of the bevel deformer settings, and there are a lot of them. So we combine our cube with another cloner, and we even learn some very basic expressor setup. Working with fields here. So, and regarding the fractured cube, we animate the effectors to control the fractured cube, so it assembles itself in the end. We add some effectors, like the plane effector, the random effector, and the delay effector. And in the end, we do our first simulation, in this case, a rigid body simulation combined with a collider object. And then, last but not least, we add several forces, like the rotation force and the gravity force. Yeah, this is the extreme extruded cube. And again, we work with effectors, fields, we work with the timeline, we animate the fields, and we put some soft body simulation on top of this. Then we add the vibration tag and a collider tag, and we have our whole animation, or simulation in this case. So the ballooned cube, we already animated it while creating, because it was a simulation. So we work with an alembic, and then we add some cloners and effectors, like the formula effector. We learn how to control the formula effector. We use the push-apart effector and to control it. And we use the plane effector together with some MoGraph selections. The last cube, the cushion cube, here we start with the caching of our simulation. And we learn how to use the connector tags so the whole cube and its individual elements stay together. And in the end, we learn how to use a vertex map and fields to produce this nice animation, or simulation in this case. So, now we come to the topic of organizing the cubes. Yeah, every now and again throughout the tutorial series, I focus on the not very popular theme of organizing your files. But it's very essential for situations like working together with bigger or smaller teams. Somehow you have to work with huge scene files. And sometimes a project even comes back. So the naming is essential. You have a better overview in the object manager. You find fast a specific track in the timeline, like this. Here you go. We work with hierarchies, and in the end, we work with the layer manager. So yeah, I can only recommend check out Cineversity and have fun with my tutorials. And that was the first sample project I wanted to show you today. And it was some kind of a special task for me, not something I do every day. And it was a learning process for me. So I won't stop learning too. Now, let's go for the second project I wanted to show you today. It was for the Beijing Auto Show this year. The client was Mercedes-Benz, and it was for their new product, the Mercedes-Benz G-Class. And I was booked by Raid Films in combination with the agency Atelier Markgraf. The team was just 2 persons. It was Martin Pajak and me. And why I chose this project, it's a good example for a standard procedure for me. So you have this 3D scene setup, like modeling, texturing, lighting, animation, and rendering. And then you have the comping part, and it was all done by ourselves. So you have to bring 3D renderings together with 2D animations, with the use of camera objects, helper objects, which you output from cinema and import into After Effects. We add some graphics and some text animations, and we learn how to work with the render layer to work with masks. Yeah. There was some briefing by the client, for sure. They wanted an abstract glass car. And this abstract glass car should stay in an abstract off-road glass landscape. And some of the new features of this car should be highlighted with the help of graphical overlays and explanatory texts. So it's more like an explanatory clip. The car shouldn't drive through the landscape. It should just stand in there with one exception, one scene. And I already mentioned, we wanted to show the 5 car highlights. In this case, we wanted to show the 4 individually controlled electric motors close to the wheel. And one more thing about the look and feel. It should be glassy, but in a graphical way, not in an absolutely realistic way. It should be more abstract and less realistic. It should be simple, clean, and minimalist. And the main colors, as you can see, are blue and white. And here and there, I added some pinkish colors and pinkish highlights to give the impression of a very early morning situation. In this case, it's the G-steering highlight, where the car rotates around one single wheel. This one is the off-road capability, climbing capacity of 45 degrees. So I put the car on a slope. And another off-road capability is the wading depth. So the car is able to drive through water. The last feature is the high-performance underbody protection for the battery. And now let's have a look at the whole clip. One more information for you. That was for the venue. So there were a lot of real cars standing on the stage, and behind them there is this big LED wall, and there were played several clips And one of these clips was this glass world. And it's in between the so-called campaign world. That was Dino Muit's part, another artist I know very well. And we dived through his glass text into our glass world and back again. So let's have a look. That was the clip. So now let's have a look at the Cinema 4D scene files. We had a lot of tasks to do. First task was to clean up the car, because we have to give them a glass shader, and it's transparent. But we didn't want to see every detail inside of the car. So it was a very long process to delete several screws and whatever, the seats and so on. That was the first task. And then I created the several scenes, so the landscape has to be set up. I needed a nice ground, we need several glass rocks, we need mountains, and in 2 or 3 scenes, a river. And there were several techniques. For the river, it's just a sweep objects, very basic. And then I added some sculpting on top, so it gets more organic. For the mountains in the background, it's just a landscape object with several inputs and adjustments. And we bought some rock compilation, rock models, and placed them here and there in the landscape. So let's have a look. As you can see, I'm not allowed to show the original 3D model of the Mercedes-Benz car. And instead, I used a free model of a Lego car, a Lego Jeep. Yes. So this is our scene file with the camera animation. Let's hide everything except the ground for now. And it's just a plane with a displacer and several fields inside. So if we do this together, let's create the plane, adjust the size of the plane, and the segments. We need some segments because it should react to the displacer object. So let's add the displacer and give it a noise. In this case, I used the Nike, but as you can see, there is not much happening, and we have to adjust the segments to see the noise map very detailed. So I placed a lot of segments, like thousands, and then I adjusted the low and high clip settings for this noise map. So it gets more contrasty by adjusting these settings. And in the end, I adjusted the contrast itself. So there are these flat areas and these bumpy areas. So it's a combination. So that's a nice base setup. but it's too even for my taste, so I added into the displacer some shader fields, again with noise maps. Adjusting the noise maps, in this case, a very high scale. Adjusting again the low and high clips. So now you can see the areas where it affects the ground. Yeah, and I adjusted the seat too regarding the camera perspective. So another shader field, another noise map. In this case, the piezo. And if you crank the scaling very, very high up, it looks a bit like tire tracks. So I like this combination, but I had to adjust several things again. And on top of this one, I wanted some small, bumpy areas. So I went for another noise map, the piezo, adjusted the scale, the input, the in and high clips, like this. Yeah. So we are nearly there. But there is one more thing I wanted to show you, because you can change the blending mode of each shader field. So if you turn off the third layer and just adjust the second shader field, if you change the blending mode from normal to overlay, it works differently. And additionally, you can adjust the strength. Yeah, that was that for the ground of the scene. So then I wanted to focus on my 3D, 2D workflow, so bringing everything together in After Effects. And yeah, this is the highlight waiting scene. First, we needed some 3D renderings out of After Effects and out of Cinema 4D. And I really like the focus object, which can control the depth of the rendering, depth of field. And in this case, we zoom out of the logo of the car and at the grille. And therefore, the focus object is here. And then I gave over the 3D informations to After Effects. And you need the Cineware tag on this helper object. So if we switch now to After Effects, you can already see I have the scene compiled with the color settings, color changes, adjustments. And we have these text layers. But the text on the right side should stay 2D. The text on the left side should move according to the camera. So we have to import the camera and the helper object. So this is just a pre-comp of the text animation, a very simple text animation. It's a comp. And the other layers are parented to this comp. So I prefer importing the AAC file. I don't know why you can use Cineware inside of After Effects, but I like the old way, so I go for that one. And here we go. There is the camera inside and the helper object. And if we just select the helper object, we can delete all the keyframes because it's not animated. We just want to get the position and rotation data. So and now if we grab our composition with the text animation inside and copy the position of the helper object into this comp, adjust the scale a bit, and here we go. So our text animation is now moving according to the camera. Just place it where you want it, a bit to the left, a bit upwards, and that's it. Because the text itself should stay very graphical and 2D. I didn't want to get some material stuff like shadow lighting or something. It should just stay clean and simple and 2D. Yeah. Another thing, it's another old plugin from Trapcode, but it's integrated, and I really use it very often. It's the Trapcode Horizon plugin. Inside of After Effects, you can add just a new solid. And on top of that, just select the Trapcode Horizon plugin. And now there are two different ways to adjust this horizon. The first way is to adjust gradient colors. Let's make it pink and dark blue and a bright blue. And now we don't see the gradient, so we have to adjust the V angles because it's according to the camera, the 3D camera already. So if we adjust that now, we can see the gradient moving according to the camera. But I didn't like the simple gradient. So I wanted to get the CI colors. I wanted to adjust the gradient according to every specific scene. So I did the pre-comp. And now you can just choose the image map and change the coverage in H and Y so it fits your composition settings. And additionally, you can rotate it in every direction. And if you find the values which are fitting, now it's moving according. Let's unsolo it, and here we go. It's very easy, this workflow, and I like it a lot. And you can do a lot of stuff with it, because if you put animations inside of this comp, you can always adjust it inside of After Effects and don't have to re-render the whole scene out of Cinema 4D. And then there's another nice thing. Every renderer has it. You have these AOV channels, and I love the CryptoMat. It's so comfortable. It's regardless of the renderer. You can just give it out, and you have the really correct masks directly inside of After Effects. And how does that work? So here is your render layer. Just put it in a separate comp, and yeah, you don't see anything. It's just black. You have to add the CryptoMat effect. And now you see specific colors for specific geometries. So, and if you just pick on some color, like this here, for example, the car, and you change the output to matted RGB, you have your mask, and it's perfectly fitting. Or instead of the car, you can choose the mountains in the back. And this way, you can easily do color adjustments or whatever you want with these masks. Yeah, that was the Mercedes-Benz G-Class project for the Beijing Auto Show this year. And in this project, my task was working as an artist together with Martin Pajak. So it was a very different task to the project I showed you before, where I did this tutorial. And yeah, now let's get over to the third project I wanted to show you today. It was for the Esports World Cup 2024. And that was a really, really huge project. I was booked by the agency Bright Studios with Michael Gigerich and Leon Herche in the lead. And yeah, I did a lot of tasks during this project. I assisted Leon and Michi with the creative production of the whole project. But I also worked as an art director and even as a 3D designer and motion designer. So there was a lot to do. This event itself lasted over 8 weeks. It was in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. And we had 3 huge stages, 6 studios, and each stage had several LED walls, which were huge. And the resolutions, as you can see, were also very huge. It was a heavy project regarding the renderings, not only from 3D, out of After Effects too. So, and that was not all. We had a combination of LED content and AR elements. And last but not least, we had 4 different design lines. There was a main design line, and then we had specific games which wanted to have specific design lines. So we had 4 design lines in the end, and we had to produce a lot of stuff. So, for example, we needed very slow and neutral and loopable animations for the backgrounds. For example, while the gamers are playing on stage, the focus should be on the gamers. We had highlight animations for special situations like winning situations when the gamer gets the trophy and so on. We had countdowns and whatever. And then there were these more complex animations like the stage openings or the final match openings. I really can't go into detail here because time is definitely too short for this. But let's start with the final match opening of the main design line. That was a combination, as I said already, of LED and AR elements. I worked closely together with the motion graphics artists, Moritz and Frederick. I supervised them. I supervised the character designer, Lars Korb, and the character animators, Can Erduman and Alex Boats, and also the Unreal artists. And yeah, it was a lot to do. Let's have a look. It's just a cut down. It's not the whole thing. Yeah, that was one thing. And then we had, like I already told you, these special design lines. In this case, for the game Honor of Kings. And I show you now some cutdowns for the stage opening and the final match opening. My task here were also supervising the team, the motion graphics artists, and the Unreal artists. And yeah, just let's have a look. And I worked myself as an artist too. So. So it was very toony, very graphical, but I can show you why in a few seconds. Oops. So this is the final match opening, and yeah, I had to create a rough storyline, a storyboard. I had to define the scenes, the characters, the screens, the look, and so on. This is just a mask for the stage LEDs because there are 5 separated LED walls.
Pay attention to the challenge, tell me where you from. Gotta be tough, gotta be strong, gotta be soldier animal. Every time you tryna push me down. Look at me, I'm invincible. Just let him know I can show you all the glory I own. Through the struggle, find a way to the petty some weak here. Girl, live it, can we go? It's an honor showtime.
During this last scene, there is the character in AR, but it's just when you view it through the real camera. that was that. And yeah, we got some guidelines from the client. So we got these key visuals, we got the color palette, and we got some patterns. And that was all. We had to work with what we got. So that was why we went for this toon look in the end. So I made these style frames together with Dominik Esser. He built this, he set up the scene just with the use of several objects of the asset browser inside of Cinema 4D. I concentrated on the toon shading and the colors according to the guidelines. I adjusted the lights and placed the patterns in each scene. And another request by the client was they wanted to fill their ad clips into this opening scene. So we had to create displays, ads, and posters in every scene. And additionally, they wanted to show the so-called dream team, so the best players of this game of the world. So what you see on the left, this is the dream team. And yeah, what I wanted to show you is to create the toon look of the character. I received the model with some textures from the character designer Lars Korb, and my task was to switch it to a toony look, to fit it into our toony scenes. And yeah, I created the RS toon material, added to the hoodie, for example, here, and you see it gets more toony, but I just copied the diffuse layer of the original texture into our toon map. Here we go. Connect it to the diffuse input or the color input. So here we are. So, but this is white and orange, and I wanted the team to have some kind of team colors. I decided to go for purple. So what can we do? We can directly inside of the Redshift node editor color correct our texture map. So just put this node in between, and in this case just desaturate the whole map. So it's gray now. And then we can switch over to the base tone map, and there we see these gradient colors. And here we can give the hoodie a completely new coloring. As I told you already, in this case, purple. So here we go. He gets a purple jacket now in a cartoon look. So you can play around with the colors and the knots and the position of the knots, or you can place more knots inside of this gradient, whatever you like. And as we have seen in the guidelines of the client, we don't want these outlines, these typical cartoon outlines. We didn't want them, so just deleted them. But what I wanted was a kind of bump map inside of our toon shader. So we had the bump map already in the original texture, so I just copied that and placed it inside our toon shader. And if we zoom in, we see that the jacket gets a nice bump map, but stays toony. So I think that's a nice thing of the Redshift toon material. So let's just have a quick look at the last clip of this Esports World Cup theme. That was for another game, the PUBG mobile game. And here I supervised the animation of the characters and the vehicle. I created a rough storyline together with Leon and Michi. We developed a more detailed kind of storyboard. We defined the scenes, the characters, the vehicles, the graphics, the look. And yeah, we had some key visual like this on the left at the bottom. So we had to go for this kind of look. And I was again supervising the team. I received the Cinema 4D files from the character animators, again, Can Erduman and Alex Boots. Can will present later, so you get more detail into the character animations at, I think, around 3 o'clock today. Yeah, and I supervised the motion graphics team also. So let's have a look. At the bottom is a stage rendering with the so-called idle loop, so neutral background, and on top is playing the stage opening, the final match opening, sorry. So we start with an underwater scene. We had to use several objects of the specific game. So there was this buggy and this guy. We animated it in a map of the game. Now we go into the jungle map of the game with another character and another vehicle. Now is the desert map, the girl driving wildly the jeep. And now we get the main character into view. That's the main character of the game. And in the end, all 4 team members climbed on top of the Kingdom Tower in Riyadh and try to reach the trophy. Yeah, that was the output of that one. Yeah, these were the projects I wanted to talk about today. And regarding my personal conclusion, I'm all in for diverse tasks and roles, as you could see. But that depends on my character. And your job is to find out for yourselves what fit best for you, and nobody else can. I know various artists working in various 3D fields. Some prefer working just on their own. Some prefer working in teams. Some prefer leading a team. So it depends on your character. Some love simulations and some hate them. Some are really good in, for example, modeling, but really can't cope with, for example, texturing. So they have to specialize, and so on and so on and so on. So in the end, I'm pretty sure you will find your place in the 3D world. And yeah, if you want to change your role at some point, who says you can't? We never stop learning during our life. Yeah, that was it from my side. Thank you so much for your time. And I hope you enjoyed my presentation.